A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Today is an auspicious day for all of us because from today we are starting a series of lectures in the subject mass communication and video production. Now, as you must have guessed that this particular subject, mass communication video production, there are many facets to this subject. Here you will learn about the fundamentals of communication, development of mass communication, various theories and models that are applicable to mass communication, how mass communication affects society, and then later on you will go on to learn the various skills required for video production like script writing, camera, editing, sound recording and so on. So it's a very exciting journey and today is the first day of the journey. We have with us in our studio two students, very enthusiastic students of mass communication, Shayantun Mukherjee and Anisha Das. Both of them are studying at ILEAD, Kolkata. So welcome you students to today's lecture, and today we are going to discuss the fundamentals of communication. Now I ask you to do a little exercise, okay, and that is close your eyes for 2 minutes and try to drain out of your mind any thoughts. Try to make your mind thoughtless, completely thoughtless. So close your eyes and do this exercise. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so 2 minutes are over. Tell me, could you make your mind thoughtless?
No, ma'am.
No.
Actually,
Even
no.
your mind, not my mind. Your mind. You
no,
couldn't?
we couldn't know.
Okay, so there were some thoughts going on.
Yes.
Can you tell? Can you share, or is it too private?
No, not too private. Well, for the college, fests are coming up, plus, studies are always on. So that's what was going on in my mind.
Okay, I need you.
I kept thinking about a movie I just watched.
Oh,
Pretty
okay.
much, yeah.
So the thing is that when there is some thought going on in your mind, and as you saw, it's practically impossible to drain out all thoughts from your mind.
Yes.
So whenever the thought is going on in your mind, you are actually communicating with yourself. Okay. It's an intrapersonal communication that's happening, and that is happening all the time. So humankind is actually a communicating animal. In all our waking hours, we are constantly communicating, either with ourselves. When we are just sitting alone in a room, some thought is going on in our mind, we are communicating with ourselves. When we are at a public place, walking along the street or traveling in a bus, whether we like it or not, through our body language, through our dress code, through our looks, we are communicating with our neighbors, those who are around us. Say for example, I see that something is written on your t-shirt. Okay, so can you read what's written on a t-shirt?
Okay.
Okay. If your dream doesn't scare you, they are not big enough.
Right. So this is, you are trying to say something, and anybody who passes you by will read it, and will get a message. Okay, so this is a very conscious way of communicating, that you are trying to give out a message to the people by wearing this t-shirt with this particular message. All right, or say when you are putting a picture in your WhatsApp profile or Facebook profile, you are trying to project a certain personality or certain image of yourself. That's a very conscious way of communication. But at a subconscious level also, we are communicating all the time. When we are not conscious that we are communicating, but nevertheless we are communicating all the time. Okay, we are giving out messages which are naturally getting coded in various kinds of cultural codes, and which are being decoded by whosoever cares to notice the communication. Okay, this is happening in our waking hours. Yes. What about your sleep? Do you think your mind, you are not communicating, your communication process is switched off when you are sleeping?
Pretty much, isn't it? Because we are not really surrounded by people when we are sleeping. We sleep alone.
Okay.
But then we do dream or have nightmares. So what about that?
We are not telling our dreams to any other person. We are dreaming ourselves.
Yeah.
So how is it communicating then?
So that's an intrapersonal communication.
Okay, how is that?
Dreaming to yourself, that means a thought process. You are getting certain images in your mind, some fears or some aspirations are surfacing in your mind.
Yes.
Okay, and they are in terms of certain imagery. You are getting some message. Some of your dreams you might remember after you wake up, and many of your dreams, as Freud said, that you don't remember. If you are dreaming in your deep sleep, then you don't remember. But dream is definitely a form of communication. It's
Okay.
an intrapersonal communication.
Then what is the difference that we, with the thoughts that we have throughout the day? Aren't those interpersonal communication
That is
as well?
also interpersonal communication.
Okay.
Dream is also interpersonal
I
communication.
see.
But the thoughts are happening at a conscious level. Dream is happening at a subconscious level.
Okay, I
Okay.
see.
Okay,
All
so
right.
conscious mind, subconscious mind, both are continuously engaged in communication. Only when our consciousness is knocked off, if we become unconscious for some time, then perhaps the communication process is temporarily switched off. Okay.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
is what is happening to the human species. In the lower species also something similar is happening, but yeah, the lower species are mainly concerned with their survival. You know, they don't think poetry or art or
No.
anything. It's only their survival. Okay, so it's more like an instinct, survival instinct. Now, humankind, let us go to the earliest record of humankind's communication. Okay, the record which is there, and these are these cave paintings which are 15,000, 20,000 years old, and these are found in various parts of the world. They are found in
Yes.
Altamira, they are found in France, they are found even in India in Bhimbetka. Okay, these paintings made by caveman. So obviously this is a process of communication. Now, when cavemen painted these paintings, they had no idea that 15,000 years later we would try and decode this and try to find the message. But at that level, in their society, these served a very important purpose of communication, right? So, what is your guess? Why did they make these paintings, and what were they trying to communicate through these paintings?
That they have accomplished hunting a wild animal, maybe?
Okay.
Also, I guess they are trying to communicate an animal. For example, I see animals drawn over here.
Yeah.
So what to hunt? The fact that the animals later on, as we know in history, became a food for the
Yeah.
human beings.
I-
So
absolutely.
I think, they're
Right.
trying to communicate
so
about
either
food.
a success in hunting, they are celebrating a success in hunting, or they are wishing for a successful hunting. That
Okay.
maybe they thought that if they draw these paintings, that they have actually captured an animal and then go out for hunting, perhaps they will be more successful in hunting.
Okay.
Perhaps. I mean, it's a conjecture.
All
They are
right.
not
Yeah.
here to tell us. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a conjecture, either celebration of a success or it's like a wish for success.
Okay.
A prayer
Okay.
for success in hunting. Alright, so definitely this is again something to do with their survival. Hunting
Yes.
is something to do with survival.
Much like the lower animals.
Much like the lower animals, but the expression is very high order.
Yes.
The instinct, the drive is like the lower animals about survival, but the expression has gone to an abstract level.
True.
True.
Understood? So that's how now they have evolved from, there is a transformation from lower animals to humankind. All right. And we do not know whether they had any spoken language or not when they were making these drawings, because there is no record of a spoken language. They might have had, they might not have had. But this painting with pictures, definitely they had. And in this particular painting, is there anything special you notice here in this painting?
Handprint?
Absolutely. It's a hath ka chhap. Okay.
Yes.
So this is as if like putting a signature for
Yes.
posterity.
Okay.
They didn't have any written language,
True.
but just by putting this handprint, they are putting their signature.
All right.
So this communication process is a very central to human existence, that all of you would agree. Okay. And you can see the same thing operates in a little child also. So these are some child's drawings, as you can see. Now, when a child is making these drawings, just nobody has asked him to. He is just in his own he is making these drawings. Do you think these are examples of interpersonal communication or intrapersonal communication?
Interpersonal, I'm guessing.
Interpersonal means he
Yes.
is doing these for somebody.
Yes. Yes, he is expressing what he's seeing around him or her to the people around him, maybe his family, his father or mother, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Could be interpersonal, but I feel more an intrapersonal. It's a self-expression. You know, the expression of joy. It is getting communicated to the others, fine. But he is not doing these to please somebody in all probability.
Oh,
He is
absolutely
doing
not.
this just for his own joy.
His own joy.
Own joy.
Okay.
But sometimes he does this, please somebody also, like this is this
Like
family.
the parents and the family.
Exactly, or take this particular thing that an interpersonal, this is a definitely he is trying to pass on a message.
Yes.
Okay, but that can never happen. He is definitely trying to pass on a message
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Okay, so therefore a child's drawings, it is most of the time intrapersonal, but sometimes it's very deliberate and interpersonal, a deliberate attempt to pass on a message. Okay, like this also is definitely an interpersonal communication.
Okay.
And, because this writing is there. When there is writing, so definitely it's interpersonal. He is trying to communicate something.
Ma'am, I have a question regarding this.
Yeah.
Ma'am, for children, let us go back to their days of, being a fetus. Do you think communication is there at that level also?
Fetus definitely listens to the mother's heartbeat. That the fetus does.
The
Fetus
baby
can-
kicks when he's hungry or something.
Yeah, the baby kicks, exactly. The baby is
Yes.
trying to communicate. The baby
Yeah.
kicks when it is irritated or hungry or whatever. Okay, so the baby is also trying to communicate. So
Okay.
therefore, communication is happening at the fetus level also. Okay.
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 So now we come to this interpersonal communication. Again, we come back to the cave painting, and here you see a number of handprints. Okay, so this is again an example of group communication.
Yes.
All right, because when the cavemen were drawing these beautiful paintings which have survived so many years, these were not a solo effort. These were more ritualistic paintings. It was a
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
ritual. So the entire group got together and they painted. Okay, so it was a group communication. All right, and you see the hand imprints of the entire group that have been left for posterity.
Okay.
All right, so therefore communication can be intrapersonal, interpersonal, or it can be a group communication. Now, what is mass communication? So let us go back. This is iron pillar from Ashoka's time. All right, so you see the iron pillar, and on the other side here you see a close up. So there are some inscriptions.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So Ashoka was trying to communicate with his subjects. Because Ashoka he had converted to Buddhism. So the message of Buddhism, the message of peace and harmony, he was trying to communicate to all his subjects, and this is the method he chose. That inscribing on iron pillars or stone
Okay.
pillars. All right, because he knew that these would survive the ravage of time. And even after his death, and even after the death of his entire clan, his son and grandson and all, these would survive. Okay, and so in his wisdom, he chose this particular medium and engraved this with the message of Buddha in order to pass on the message of peace and harmony to posterity, to generations after generations. All right.
Okay.
So you may say that this is one of the first deliberate attempts at mass communication. The cave paintings have survived the ravage of time, but
Yes.
obviously the cavemen didn't do it deliberately, because those are
Okay.
caves and the sunlight doesn't enter, it has survived. But here this is a deliberate attempt to select a medium like iron which doesn't rust, or a very strong, very hard stone which will survive the weathering, the ravages of time, and it will the inscriptions will remain for hundreds of thousands of years. So a deliberate attempt of mass communication, not only in the contemporary time but even to the future generations.
Future generations.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So before coming to this definition of mass communication,
Okay.
any communication, whether it is interpersonal or mass, okay, the basic process of communication. So what is there in the basic process of communication? There is a chain that is formed. Okay, and the chain is a closed chain. It's a loop that is formed. So what are the various components in the loop? There has to be a sender. The sender has to have a message to communicate. He has to encode the message either as a spoken language or as a drawing or whatever, in whatever way, and then he has to choose an appropriate medium, just as Ashoka chose the medium of stone,
Stone and
okay, engraving on stone, and then there has to be a receiver who will receive the message, he will decode it, he will understand it and send a feedback. Okay. Now these Ashoka's inscriptions here of the communication chain perhaps is not looped. I mean, it has remained an open chain. Okay, because nobody knows. There is no way of sending a feedback to Ashoka. Okay, but unless and until we follow the message, we read it and we follow the message in our lives. Okay, that is also one way of feedback. Otherwise, it has remained an open chain. Otherwise, in our everyday communication, we are always looking for a feedback. When we are talking over the phone, from the other side, if you don't hear anything, you keep saying hello, hello. That means you have reassurance that the other side is still alive. Understand? So we all the time, we constantly look for a feedback. Okay, so therefore it's a closed chain, it's a closed loop. Communication always happens in a closed loop.
Even in intrapersonal?
Intrapersonal communication, of course, the loop is internalized. It is, we know what we are communicating. Yes.
Okay, we question ourselves and we answer ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay,
Huh. Yeah, you wanted to ask something?
No, ma'am. I was just thinking, for today's generation, we have different kind of media, right? The print is there, the television, the broadcast, and the radio comes under that. So what do you think are the various forms of feedback for them?
Okay, so that is, these media are media of mass communication. Okay, so we'll just come to this mass communication, but let me just show you a little bit more about encoding and decoding.
Okay.
These are these traffic signals. These are all encoded messages. And when you learn driving, these are the signals you have to memorize. I mean, these messages, these codes you have to memorize, because unless and until you decode these messages, there will be an accident on the road. You will take a U-turn where U-turn is not allowed, and then the police is going to fine you. You will park your vehicle when there is no parking.
Yes.
Okay, and all these things, so there will be chaos. All right. So therefore, the traffic police is trying to give you these messages. It is deliberately encoding these essential messages and putting it at strategic points. And when you learn driving, you have to learn this, how to decode these messages, so that the communication process is complete. Okay. So that's the thing in interpersonal communication. Similarly, a national flag is an encoded message. Now you can decode it. The saffron star stands for something, the Ashok Chakra stands for something, the green stands for something, white stands for something, which is taught to every school child. Okay, so decoding the national flag. Okay, so therefore national emblem, national flags, these are all encoded messages. Okay, very carefully encoded. Condensed, the entire message is condensed in the color and all the symbols that they use. So, as you said, Kid, that feedback, so how do we get feedback in mass communication? So, slowly let us see what are the various forms of feedback that are possible. Okay. So, now you see Mona Lisa here.
Yes.
All right. And the other image you see, there is somebody has done Photoshop with Mona Lisa. Okay.
Yes.
So, this is also a kind of feedback. Of course, Leonardo da Vinci is not alive to get this feedback. That's a different matter. But this is also a feedback that somebody is toying with the tampering with the Mona Lisa image, trying to manipulate the Mona Lisa image in his own way. Okay, so this is also a form of feedback, but a delayed feedback. It is happening over after several centuries. It's not an immediate feedback. It's a delayed feedback.
But this is a feedback to who? The painter himself?
It's the feedback to the painter. Definitely will get a feedback from here.
Okay.
But that, okay, this is what we're doing with my painting. So I'm just telling you, supposing you have made a drawing or painting which has become very famous. Okay. While you are alive, somebody has adapted it and made a parody of that painting, or turned it around to make a comic painting, like here that Mona Lisa thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you are alive, it will be a feedback to you. Okay, so this is, they have not only understood my image, but this is what they are doing to it.
Absolutely.
So it's a feedback to you. So if Leonardo da Vinci were alive, he would have got this feedback. It's a different matter. It's so delayed that he is not alive. So that's a different matter. See, these are all takeoffs on Mona Lisa.
Wow.
All of these. Okay, so Leonardo da Vinci is definitely turning in his grave.
Yes, absolutely. They've let themselves go.
Yes.
See, this is also.
Oh my God.
Okay, and this is all available on the internet, all downloaded from the internet.
Okay.
Okay. Now, sometimes there is noise in a communication chain. Then a communication chain is not clean. There is noise in a communication chain. Now, so you take this inscriptions on stone. If they are weathered, then the inscriptions would wear off. Okay, so then you will not be able to decipher these inscriptions clearly. Or if you take these Ajanta paintings, over the years, because there is some damp that is seeping in through the caves, so some of the color has gone, some of the layers have chipped off. Okay, so the paintings are not as clear and as neat as they were initially drawn. So therefore, a noise has crept in. So this is also a kind of noise. Or if you cannot decode it, if you cannot decipher, say supposing somebody speaks to you in German and you don't understand German at all. So that's a noise for you because you haven't got the message at all. The entire message is a noise.
Okay.
Okay. All right. If an astronomer is viewing through the telescope, he is trying to analyze the starlight to see the spectrum, and there may be too much of noise. If there is atmospheric pollution, there may be too much of noise that is coming in the spectrum, which is unwanted thing.
Indeed.
So noise can come in various forms, in various shapes. Okay, so the noise is also an integral part of communication. Very rarely a communication process is noise free, very rarely. Okay, and in every communication process there is a connotative element and a denotative element.
Okay.
That means the denotative element is what is definitely there, unambiguously there. Okay, and connotative element is the meanings that are suggested. Say this particular photograph. Okay, all right. So here a man and a woman and a dog. So that is denotative. But in the composition, in their action and the dog looking, there are many things that are suggested, which are not overtly said but suggested. Okay, so that is the connotative part of the communication.
Okay.
Understood? Similarly, you take any photograph, any painting, this particular photograph, interesting photograph.
Very interesting.
So different people can interpret it in different ways, and that shades of meaning that come out, that is the connotative part of the communication. So most of the communication process, there is a strong denotative element, there is a strong connotative element also.
Okay.
All right. But there are some forms of communication which are where the connotative element, that shades of meaning are open to interpretation, that is deliberately avoided. And these are, say, wills, these are scientific definitions, okay, legal statements, where connotative part is deliberately avoided because nobody wants shades of meaning to come out of a will. There should be unambiguity.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why these communication is so boring. When you strip it of all its connotative meaning, it becomes very boring.
Very boring.
Okay, scientific definitions are so boring because there is no connotation in them. So if there is no connotation, there is no fun. That's the whole thing. Okay, now we come to mass communication, because this radio, print and television, all that you were saying, that how is the feedback happening there. Now, mass communication is where a handful of people are communicating with a huge mass of people. Okay, just maybe in a newspaper office about 100 people work, but the newspaper is read by tens of thousands of people, maybe more.
Yes.
Okay, so handful of people are communicating with a huge number of people, but here the word mass is misnomer. Why the word mass is misnomer? Because these people are not gathered together, collected at a point to form a mass gathering, but they are all isolated individuals sitting in their drawing rooms or while traveling and all, they are reading the newspaper or listening to the radio.
But they are getting the same message.
They are all getting the same message. They are reading the same newspaper, but individually, not together.
Okay.
When there is a mass gathering, like if everybody has gone to watch a play, okay,
Yes.
or to a movie, then there is a mass gathering. But otherwise, radio, television, newspaper are individual endeavors. Television, maximum family endeavors, but entire family is watching the television.
Okay.
So when we are saying the television, radio, newspaper are media of mass communication, we have to be careful about the fact that the word mass, the term mass, is a misnomer here. There is no mass gathering here, although everybody is getting the same message. Okay. Now, your question, in this mass communication, how is the feedback? Because for the communicator, feedback is very important. Okay, so how is the feedback happening? So, certain channels of feedback has to be kept open. Immediate feedback is many a times difficult, but now in these live shows where there is phone-in facilities,
Yes.
immediate feedback is there. Otherwise, there's letter to the editor, or they say that in the portal of the newspaper, that news is there and you can leave a comment.
Yes.
Though actually they look for the comment because that is a feedback for them. Understood? So that way there are various channels of feedback. Or if you like this, you SMS. You have to send
Yes.
SMS. That is also a way of feedback. Or you can be in touch with us. You tweet to us. This is my
And they have
Twitter handle.
hashtags at times, like tweet
Exact-
particularly this comment and this topic.
Absolutely.
So hashtag that topic.
Yes. So those are all various channels of feedback that they want to keep open, because naturally they have to feel the pulse of the audience. They don't want to communicate to a black hole, where the communication is going. Understood? So these are the various modes of feedback that the channels of mass communication have to keep open. But we must remember that mass communication is an technology dependent process, it's an expensive process, and so the products of the media, that is the messages, become commodity. They are not only messages to be communicated, but they have become commodity to be sold, and that is where the complication arises. That they are not only messages, but they are commodities, and there has to be a monetary return against the messages that are created by the mass communicators. Alright. So, mass communicator must operate in a certain society, but in the process they end up changing the very society from where they are operating. And that is what we are going to see in the course of lectures, that how mass communication changes the society and shapes the society and prevails upon the society in so many ways. Okay, so I think we have crossed our limit. If you have any last question, you ask, otherwise we will call it a day. If you have any parting question, you can ask.
Do you have any question?
No, this was quite
quite
useful,
elaborate.
helpful and
Yes.
elaborate
Yes.
Okay,
lecture.
so you please keep watching this channel, because in the subsequent lectures we are going to take up various aspects of first interpersonal communication and then mass communication. Till then, goodbye. Thank you very much.